Thank you for joining us today for the Conformed to Christ podcast, where we seek to engage the mind, affect the heart, and call people to follow Christ. My name is George Mays, and sitting here across from me is Jay Jones.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Awesome.
We've got Free for All Friday.
Yeah.
No, we haven't had Free for All in a couple of weeks, and people have been asking about it.
Has it been a couple of weeks since we had one?
I think so.
I feel like we did a mega free for all.
We did a mega one.
What was it on? Remember? I don't know. It's not.
You're asking
I don't
me
even
to.
remember.
You're asking me to remember.
That's how important these
Past
episodes are. Can't even remember them. But we're on like 160 something something
Okay.
Yeah. We're getting up there.
Yeah.
So
Pretty good for.
2 a week.
Yeah.
Every week. It used to be 3. So yeah, not bad. So Free for All Friday. We're back.
People enjoy Free for All Friday.
I guess.
They when we don't have it, we hear from people.
Yeah. Yep.
Of course, some people just use our podcast as their calendar so that they know what day it is.
Yeah.
And that's on them. It's not our fault if you don't know what day it is.
Yeah, we've had some pretty fun ones, pretty good ones. Some more serious ones. I don't know what you'd call this one. This one will be more, I guess, more on the serious. But the beginning, we'll laugh because we don't want to cry. We're talking about the SBC again. So I guess we gotta have to, right?
Right.
'Cause it's just too much in the news about the SBC again.
You know, if our church just leaves the convention, we don't have to talk about them ever again.
Yeah.
That's another. We'll just put that on the list of pros.
That's right. So we'll talk about the SBC, and then maybe we'll have time. Let's talk a little bit about vaccine mandates.
Okay.
Talk about that.
Okay.
So Ed Litton's back. He's back in the. Well, he never went away, and that's kind of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because his blatant plagiarism now is just being defended in all kinds of strange ways, right? He's being defended by people like it's so weird and crazy, and then he's not himself not even being honest about what he did at Southwestern. So we'll have a couple clips, George.
Right.
He's sitting at a seminary that trains preachers, and he's not even going to be honest about what happened with his plagiarism.
Right.
If those that don't know, I don't know how, like if you listen to this podcast, you wouldn't know, but he plagiarized J.D. Greer's, like, apparently the entire Roman series, and some sermons were just like word for word. He even we'll show illustrations,
Right.
as if they were him doing these things. So pretty bad and blatant plagiarism. I asked George, I said, hey, George, when you were at seminary, because we both went to seminary, and yet we both had preaching classes. We had to write our own. Did you write your own sermons in preaching class, George?
Yes.
It's so strange. You actually like broke the Bible open, did exegesis of the text, came up with your own outline, even?
Yeah.
Dang. And you are...
Illustrations.
Wow.
They were my own illustrations.
So yeah, everyone who goes to seminary does that. Now just imagine, George, that you preach one of Adrian Rogers' sermons word for word.
Right.
Do you think it would have gone well for you in class?
No.
What might have happened to you at seminary?
Best case scenario, fail the class.
Worst case?
Get kicked out.
Kicked out of school?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's so odd because our president is still the president.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe we have a credibility problem.
My problem with the way that, and one of the most bizarre defenses of Ed Litton showed up on Twitter 3 days ago.
Uh-huh.
What's so bizarre is they are treating Ed Litton like he's some kind of champion.
Right.
I didn't even know who this guy was until, 4 months ago?
Yeah.
I didn't even know who he was.
And then he
And
said,
now
you will.
Now he's the president of the convention. It has been very clearly exposed that he is using other people's outlines and illustrations.
Well, not
and
just,
and application.
And
right?
it's the whole thing.
The whole thing. And
not even just J.D. Greer's. It goes back a long time ago to Tim Keller.
yeah,
they
and
found out.
instead of holding him accountable and saying you need to step down,
Right.
you need to resign, instead they're all rallying around him.
He probably ought to resign from his
he
church.
is this hero of the faith. It's so bizarre.
Well, we talked about integrity and just kind of how it's important. It should be very important for a pastor, to be like above reproach and thought of well by outsiders, because now even outsiders,
secular news sources have reported on this.
There was an Anglican, even a conservative Anglican, wrote an article about just how, and he just said it's just straight up shameful.
Yeah,
because he sees, he's a conservative evangelical, because there are a few Anglicans like that around still. The guy who wrote the 2 Ways to Live track, I believe he's one from Australia.
Yeah.
Great track. Anyway, these are Whitfield-like Anglican.
Yeah.
Right? And he's critiquing. He's like, this is such a blatant violation of having any integrity, which you're to try to, as best as you are able to live a life above reproach and be an example for other people, other Christians as a pastor.
Right.
We were talking about just integrity, and I was like, man, this is so crazy, because when I was going through officer candidate school, like they told us at the beginning, honor, integrity, honesty, we will not compromise at all on these things. You will have these traits, and we'd memorize quotes, like you will have these or you'll get kicked out. So we were on a land navigation course. We were 2 weeks out in the middle of nowhere, in Fort Benning, learning how to do land navigation. Land navigation during the daytime is challenging over large distances, especially when you're first learning it. But at nighttime, it is very difficult, especially if there is not like a full moon, so there's low illumination. So they say, okay, you've got a red flashlight. You can use that red lens flashlight. You can get down and put a blanket over you, You don't want to give away your position. Use your red lens flashlight. Make sure your position's good on your map, whatever. Keep on going. You are not allowed to use a white lens flashlight to see where you are in the woods, to do anything. You cannot do it. Red lens flashlight only. If you use anything but a red lens flashlight, we'll consider integrity violation. So they caught a dude out there in the middle of nowhere. Of course, they're out there monitoring,
right,
like ghosts in the night. Well, how creepy is that, right? There's people in the woods watching you walk around. And so they bust this guy. They kick this guy out, man.
Wow. Used
a white flashlight.
Yeah.
I think another person got kicked out for lying, told a white lie, like a little white lie.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, that's a character violation. You're out.
Wow.
We don't want you in the officer corps. I'm like, George, here we are.
But
the pagan army has more integrity than the SBC.
Well, come on, Jay. We need to have some grace.
Well, we're not saying we're gonna kick this guy out of the church and kick him to the curb. We're saying, hey, you just lost the privilege.
Right.
You forfeited the privilege of being a leader.
Right.
That's a difference.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if we want to play the clip first or if you want me to read this tweet first.
Which tweet you got?
This is Bart Barber.
Let's play this clip first before my iPad dies.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
All right. So here goes a clip.
Because maybe people haven't heard of this. Maybe they're they're thinking it's not a big deal.
Okay, we'll show this clip. Here's what he says,
okay,
and then I want to show the clip of him doing the illustration.
Okay, all right.
So here's Ed Litton.
So this is they Southwestern invited him, and this is Ed Litton's on the right. Adam Greenway, who is the president of Southwestern Theological Seminary, is on the left.
Yeah.
They are in the chapel. They are talking to seminary students who are pursuing a Master's of Divinity degree.
Mm-hmm.
Rigorous, high standards.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Ed Litton.
Oh yeah, he's gonna tell you what happened.
At least they're talking about it. I mean,
they got to.
They a lot of them have been just kind of sweeping it under the rug like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You kind of have to do it, right?
Well, they're just pretending that the old ladies aren't online. Well, they're not pretending. They know that a lot of the older people aren't online. They're like, they'll never hear about this stuff.
Yeah.
We can count on them continuing to give. We're good.
Yeah.
Check this out.
There are, in a couple particular cases, times where I made statements that others have been able to line up with statements that from the same text, the same passage that J.D. used. So to answer your question, I don't consider that plagiarism. But let me tell you where my sin was. My sin was I did not credit him to my church. I've been asked why. And I'm a little mystified by that too, because I'm very transparent with my people. And the goal of using material, whether it's written by R. Kent Hughes or International Critical Commentary or any other commentary you use, is to expound on the text and to make sure people understand the verse-by-verse meaning of that text. So that was my goal. It wasn't to become famous, because quite frankly, if that was my goal, I would not have picked J.D. Greer as someone to quote. The problem was I did not credit him. And I have repented of that to my church. I have repented of that to our leadership. And quite frankly, we're in a process of changing some things. I'm fasting from listening to preaching right now, because it turns out I have a capacity to remember statements that are made in an audible sermon that I hear that's a little too good, and sometimes it gets mixed up.
A little too good, George.
Poor Ed Litton with his big brain.
Yeah.
It must be such a burden
Right.
to remember.
So, George, the only thing he really did wrong was some people have been able to line up some phrases between him and J.D. Greer.
Right.
Is that what happened?
No. So you didn't. There's several clips that go along with this. This was a long event. I think you can find the whole thing altogether. I think it's like an hour. But he says at one point that oh goodness, what exactly did he say? I lost it. I lost what he said.
I don't remember what he said and the others, but all I know is that it came out before.
Yeah,
he has a team of sermon writers.
Oh, I think it was Adam Greenway actually that he says that a lot of this has come from anonymous online sources.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so they're playing it off like this is just
fringe.
This is just a few instances where there's some similarities, and it's these anonymous sources that they're just trying to stir up trouble.
They're just troublemakers.
I mean, we're not big time at all. But did you know that we're anonymous?
George, your humility is.
I didn't know that
because we do get about 100
oh, okay, all right,
downloads per episode now.
Okay,
so your humility is very inspiring to me.
I didn't know that when you uploaded this that you blurred out our faces and
we're anonymous
and you cut out the part where we introduce ourselves and where we're from, and we're anonymous.
Or the founders guys.
Founders has done it. A.D. Robles has done it. John Harris has done it.
Dr. Allen at Midwestern.
Well, he didn't name him, though.
Yeah, but it was pretty clear who he was talking about.
Right.
Al Mohler
spoke about it when he was asked point blank about it in a chapel service. He kind of had the answer. Protestia. Yeah. Everyone knows that's J.D. Hall.
Right.
These are not anonymous. These are not anonymous people that are posting this stuff. They're just trying to sweep it away, and they're trying to poison the well at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Before we talk about that clip, I want to talk a little bit more about that clip. But why don't you show them?
Okay, I will.
This is just one.
Yeah.
There are many videos that are lined up with J.D. Greer.
Yeah.
And Ed Litton preaching the same passage, and here's just one.
Yeah.
Here's just one example of what we're talking about.
But people got to keep in mind too is that like what he's saying doesn't match what's already come out.
Right.
He preaches from a manuscript, and like he's preaching from word for word J.D. Greer's sermon from a manuscript.
I want to go back to big brain.
Yeah, it's not that he's got a big brain. Like, I listened to J.D. Greer's sermon. I said some of the same things he did.
Because I was just remembering. It's just this curse that I have that.
And you'll see when I hit play on here, even when he does this illustration.
Yeah.
Like if it's a personal illustration, like you're pretty free from your notes, right? You just look around. You're telling your story.
Right.
Like if I'm doing this,
this guy is tied to his.
He's tied to his notes.
He's tied to his manuscript.
He's reading someone else's illustration.
Yeah.
He's something that happened to J.D. Greer. He's reading it as if it happened to him.
Right.
And so let's play it before my tablet dies, and then
then we'll go back and we'll
talk
analyze
more,
it a little bit.
more about it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's shift over.
You know, when I took driver's ed, I was thinking about this the other day because my daughters are about this age where they're getting into this. And driver's ed, I think they still do it, but the car that I took driver's ed in had, the guy sitting next to me had this big old brake. That's all he had. Do y'all have this? The big old brake coming out? And it meant that he could stop that car anytime he wanted. And in fact, he did it like after we'd been out about 5 minutes just to show me that he had it. So I wanted to turn, and he just like slammed on that brake and like, slam in there. And what he was showing me was, you think you're in control of this car. And I'm letting you drive, but I can stop this car anytime I want to.
I took driver's ed in high school. That was a trip. I'll never forget the guy who was teaching me. I noticed he had a strange thing over, just underneath the glove box, there was this brake. And when I first pulled out of the parking lot, he stomped on it to show me who really boss was. And I'll never forget that.
Right? When you come to Christ, you didn't come, you basically turn over the brake. And you're like, because I would describe probably some of our spiritual lives that way. Is that Jesus is speaking to you? And you're like, yeah, let's do that. Let's go over here. That sounds awesome. Oh, I'll do that. But every once in a while, you're like, nope. You push that brake in, and the car comes to a halt because you've never actually surrendered it to him. You've kept that brake right in place. To be surrendered to Jesus means you take the brake away.
Many of us see our relationship to Christ that way. And I'm not talking about you're the student driver. You're the guy with the brake. And to come to Christ and to surrender to him means that you give him the steering wheel. But you need to uninstall that brake, dude. You need to stop slamming on it every time God starts moving in your life.
But ultimately, he had the veto power. He had not surrendered the car to me.
Until you surrender your brake to the Holy Spirit of God, friend, you're vetoing God. Who do you think you are?
That music gets me.
You like that?
Music.
You like the little come to Jesus?
There's nothing like some good plagiarism to some sentimental music.
Right. Okay. So, Ed Litton, he said that he had permission from J.D. Greer. That wasn't his sin. His sin was he didn't attribute it to his church. So he doesn't consider what he did plagiarism.
Well, he just says it's a phrase here or there.
Right. So
but not.
Yeah, but he said, I don't consider that plagiarism. That's what he said at Southwestern. My sin was not attributing it to J.D. Greer when I did it.
Right.
I just went on to dictionary.com here, Jay, and looked up plagiarism. The definition is an act or instance of using or closely imitating the language and thoughts of another author without authorization and the representation of that author's work as one's own, as by not crediting the original author.
Yeah.
So so this is the problem, right? That I didn't consider that plagiarism.
Right.
It doesn't matter what Ed Litton considers plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Like, this is a kind of a postmodern argument for why it wasn't wrong, because I didn't consider it plagiarism. Well, it doesn't matter because it's not your truth. It's what is the definition of plagiarism? And the definition of plagiarism is taking someone else's thoughts or words and not giving credit to the original author. That is, by definition, plagiarism.
Yeah. The issue is at its root one of dishonesty, right? Because what he's doing is he's presenting to his congregation. The impression the congregation will get from him is, my pastor is well studied and learned in the book of Romans. He's come up with a good outline. Yeah. It communicates truth well. Oh, he's very creative in his presentation style. And even in the illustrations he used, how helpful were those illustrations that my pastor came up with? Yeah. Well, he didn't come up with any of it.
Right.
Someone else did.
Yeah.
But he's presenting it as if it's him. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
Yeah. And he says that he's repented to his church, and I have seen tweets saying we are supposed to forgive,
right?
Because he's repented,
right?
Now I'm going to contest that. and say that Ed Litton has not repented.
I don't think he has either.
And the reason why is at first he, when this was exposed, they
Took down
swiped.
Yeah. They took down a bunch of sermons.
They just wiped their YouTube page of 140 sermons. He put the blame on a preaching team that he has.
Yeah.
So he said this was his preaching team.
Yeah. Because they help assemble the sermons.
Then he said that he had J.D. Greer's permission. And now in this clip...
Do you have a preaching team, though, George? I got to ask before you keep going.
I mean, there's other elders at the church that I'll bounce ideas off of. But, I mean, I told you my sermon outline for this coming Sunday.
Yeah, you did.
But
you came up with that on your own?
You didn't write it.
You came up with that on your own, George?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You discovered it, or you
I already put it down on the page.
Well, when you discover a sermon outline, right,
right,
you're discovering what's in the text.
Right.
You don't really need a creative team for that.
Right. Right. But now...
Sorry, I just can't help myself.
Yeah, but now he's saying, well, it's I just have this superpower where I can remember things a little too well.
Yeah.
It's a humble brag, right?
Yeah. It's just unintentional because, when I listen to sermons, sometimes I just remember things too well, and I just say sermon.
It's
just say. Meanwhile, he's reading it, right?
Right.
I'm reading an illustration. Right. How lame is that anyway? Like, dude, let's go back to like basic sermon delivery.
Right.
If it's your illustration about your life, you don't need to look at your notes.
Yeah. Just
talk to the people.
Again, this is what is so bizarre to me in the way that people are defending him. This guy is not a good preacher. He's not. He is not good. At least I could see why people would like J.D. Greer.
Come on, dude.
Yeah. I could see why people would like J.D. Greer.
Right.
When you see him, he's got his notes.
Right.
And we've talked about how, we don't like the notes in the Bible, but that's probably more taste than anything.
Yeah.
But he's got his notes, but he's obviously talking to the congregation. Ed Litton's got he's glued to his pulpit, he's glued to his notes, and he's reading it.
It seems like J.D. Greer wrote a sermon for his people.
Right.
Even we can take it with the satellite thing, get whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. They'll never see him, but the people in front of him, he's trying to speak to them as a pastor.
Yeah.
When you just copy someone else's sermon and read it verbatim,
yeah,
you're not even thinking about your people, man. Like,
yeah.
It's not,
this is why I don't understand why people are defending him like he's this last bastion of hope for the SBC, other than the fact that he buys into the CRT stuff.
I wish someone there at Southwestern would have got up and asked Adam Greenway, hey, if someone in your preaching class were to preach one of Paige Patterson's chapel sermons, would you pass him?
Right. Well, you know that what is it, Dr. Yarborough? I think he's one of the theological professors at Southwestern. He tweeted out that he's just doing theology and community, and we need to get back to that in the Baptist. And I just wonder, if I was there, it would be such a temptation just to use someone else's, not verbatim. I don't think that Ed Litton is taking J.D. Greer's sermon and just start to finish.
Right.
But I think he's taking big chunks of it.
Big chunks.
And I think he's taking outlines.
Yeah, outlines and big chunks.
And illustrations, obviously, and making them his own. I would love for a student to get up and do that. Like just big chunks of someone else's sermon and a recognizable sermon.
Right.
Even a J.D. Greer sermon. And then when the professor, rakes him over the coals about it, be like,
what would
we just had Ed Litton here, and he gave
no. What would be even better, George? It'd be to rip off Ed Litton's sermon, which is a rip off of J.D. Greer's sermon, and preach that in chapel.
Right,
a double rip off.
And they're not even good sermons. I mean, we've talked about J.D. Greer's, the Bible whispers about sexual sin. Ed Litton ripped that off.
Sermon. He preached the same sermon.
He ripped that one off. He preached that sermon too. It's not even good sermons. They're not even good theology, and yet here he is, and people are defending him. And he did nothing wrong, and it just boggles the mind. And then for him to say, I'm fasting. He says, I'm fasting from listening to preachers because I have a tendency to remember too well. Like, there are heart issues going on with this guy that are just mind-boggling.
I bet he makes
And
about
for people,
200,000 a year,
people to think that this is okay and to defend him, and the executive committee of the SBC is meeting this week, and on Monday, Ed Litton got up to give his speech that the president gives, and he chastised them. We need to be regaining the trust of the Southern Baptist churches, and for the goal of him to stand up and say we need to regain the trust of the SBC when he is a serial plagiarizer, it just I'm left speechless over the whole thing. Tweet came out 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Bart Barber. Bart Barber, he's a pastor in the SBC. I don't know if he still is a trustee. He used to be a trustee.
Right.
I don't know a lot about him. I know that he's a big name. People recognize him in the SBC. He's well known in the upper echelons of
He's
the
an
SBC.
influential guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone tagged him in a tweet about how they plagiarized him in a sermon, and someone said, "Way to go, making light of plagiarism and just kind of sweeping this stuff under the rug." And so there's this long thread between this guy and Bart Barber, but I want to get to just a couple of them. We don't have to do a deep dive into it, but he says a few things that, again, this is just kind of an illustration, an example of how people are going to great lengths to defend Ed Litton and to kind of downplay this whole, they're calling it Sermongate.
Right.
So the guy asked him, what if an SBC president, he violated his marriage vows or violates the moral law of breaking into a jewelry store, robbing candy at Walmart. Bart Barber, he says that guy would have transgressed the BF&M, the Baptist Faith and Message, in every one of those cases. And the guy comes back and he says, and plagiarism doesn't. And this is what Bart Barber says. He says, I can show you specific wording in the BF&M for all of those things, and will do so if you require it. You show me the wording in the BF&M about preaching material someone else preached first.
It's
not in the Baptist Faith and Message, Jay.
It is so
unserious. You should go ahead and do it, right?
Yeah. It's so unserious. It's ridiculous.
He goes on. And he says there's not a single verse in the Bible about how to cite sources. The synoptic gospels don't cite each other. He says Mark's gospel is Peter's account given without any attribution at all. He says plagiarism is an academic standard that wasn't even intended until centuries after the Bible had already been written. It is a man-made protocol of how to indicate the sources of published academic work. And he then goes on to say that Mark plagiarized Peter, and that he says this, Jay, and I'm just gonna let you say whatever you want to say about this. He said Mark was not bound by any such authority. He plagiarized as God inspired him to do.
I don't even know what to say. Does it even deserve a serious interaction? It's so silly.
I mean, another person jumped in and said that's a pathetic line of reasoning.
Right.
to protect nothing that can be salvaged.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And he didn't respond. He was gone. That's the end of the thread.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know what to say.
I don't
Jay.
even. I don't even.
I mean,
know what to say
these
either.
guys, they have gone out of their way to defend something that there's no reason for them to defend.
No.
Like, why are they defending this? Okay, so he's defending and saying there's nothing wrong with this because Mark plagiarized too. God inspired him to plagiarize.
Right.
And then you've got Ed Litton.
Well, people may not understand why, because it appears that Mark listened to Peter's sermons, or a long sermon. I don't know how many, but it's about his time with Jesus, and Mark recorded it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so
I don't understand. Mark's not saying, "Hey, these are my experiences with Jesus."
Right.
That's not what Mark's doing.
Yeah.
Right. that would be
Mark is basically Peter's secretary.
Yeah, if he was plagiarizing, if he's doing what Ed Litton would do, Mark would be presenting Peter's experiences with Jesus as his own.
Right.
That's the best way that I could maybe just refute what he's saying.
Right.
And that's not what he's doing.
In modern terms, we could say that Mark is Peter's ghostwriter.
That's right.
That's not plagiarism, right?
Yeah.
The whole reason why we know it's Peter, it kind of argues against Mark having plagiarized.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the the cognitive dissonance here. You've got Bart Barber and others who are defending it and saying there's nothing wrong with it. Show me in the BFNM where it says that. Show me in the Bible where it says you can't preach someone else's sermon. But then you've got Ed Litton over here at Southwestern saying that he's repented to his church.
What's he repenting
What's
of?
he repenting of?
Yeah.
So you've got which one is it? Did he do something wrong, or did he not do anything wrong? Is it just because he's got a big brain and he just can't help? I can't help but remember stuff, so I've got to stop listening to other pastors. I can't listen to anyone preach, or I might just accidentally steal their. I might hear them give an illustration from their own life, and then I'll remember it and think it was my own.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I mean, something is.
Yeah.
Like this is how bad the SBC has gotten.
Yeah.
And I listen to A.D. Robles quite a bit. He's talked about this. He's not SBC. He's Presbyterian, but he's talked about it because everyone's talking about it. Right. And he said that this scandal really is God's grace to the SBC. Because God has in his sovereignty set the bar so low. Here is something that even secular news sources have picked up on and know that this ain't right.
Yep.
And all the leadership of the SBC has to do is come out and say, this was wrong.
Yep.
Ed Litton needs to resign.
That's it.
It's crystal clear.
Yep, that's all.
But they won't do it.
They won't do it.
They won't do
No,
it.
they won't.
That's how corrupt and how bad the SBC has gotten. That the bar can be set so low that even the secular world, the world's watching, right, Jay?
Yeah. Well,
the world is watching, and they still can't do it.
I think many people in the SBC really hold the SBC in a place of idolatry.
Yeah.
In their heart, they think that the institution must survive above all else. Like the kingdom needs the SBC.
Right.
That's the impression I get anyway of coming to the SBC late.
Yeah.
Right in life, that we're so important we can't fail. We're too big to fail. Right. Like the motor corporations that had to be bailed out when the
right.
when the market all started to collapse.
Yeah.
The SBC is too big to fail. So protect the institution above all else.
Right.
It's really exposing a lot of stuff.
The executive committee.
Yeah.
They were voting on a resolution that was passed at the convention on sexual abuse and investigating the sexual abuse cover-ups that have been that allegedly occurred in the executive committee. And the majority of the executive committee trustees voted against waiving attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, the messengers last year voted, like 13,000 people voted. I mean, it was huge. I think it was around 13,000 to have a third-party investigation into the executive committee. Executive committee kind of runs the SBC year round, right?
Yeah.
The SBC only exists for that short time, once a week or 1 week out of the year,
right,
when everyone convenes, and then they equip with delegated authority from the churches, how it's supposed to be, into these trustees and into the executive committee to run the affairs of things all year. They voted to have a third-party investigation into the prior executive committee, I guess, because that changes every 2 years, maybe. I don't know exactly how long you serve on that. I think it's
2 or 3. I think there's different times. There's different times, yeah.
And so a third-party investigation according to this criteria, right? And that criteria would be, okay, this isn't an investigation by the government or a criminal investigation, so we would ask that you waive attorney-client privilege. And that way we can get to the bottom of what actually happened. We just want the truth to come out. And so the executive committee voted overwhelmingly against that. So they defied the will of the messengers for the first time in the history of the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah.
The executive committee decided to do their own thing and say, no, we'll have a third-party investigation, but we'll do it according to how we say the investigation should take place, meaning they won't waive it. Now, you can understand why. We talked about this. If you've done something a little bit shady, George,
Yep.
do you want to waive attorney-client privilege?
Probably not.
No. And the reason being is because you could be sued later.
You're exposing yourself. Yeah.
Now, not saying that this would go to criminal court, but if the truth comes out and you did something wrong, well, then you could be sued in civil court.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's behind it. It appears that there were some cover-ups or shady stuff that's gone on. And now, unfortunately, people are protecting the institution. In their mind, protecting the institution above letting the truth come out for these sexual abuse victims.
Right.
So.
Need to just burn the whole thing down, Jay.
Well, apparently God's burning it down. I mean,
Yeah.
we just maybe just sit here and watch.
Right. Yeah. I think there's obvious signs of God's judgment on the SBC for just a variety of things. Before we go to our next topic, I just wanted to ask you: have you ever given an offering to the church that goes to the cooperative program, Jay?
To our church?
To just any church. You
Yeah.
ever give to the cooperative program?
For sure.
Well, I just want to thank you for some of the swag that is given out. So
Let's see it.
So
let's see what you got.
first is we've got these nice little water bottles.
Oh,
Says Future NAMB Missionary.
North American Mission Board.
Good, check
Oh,
that
nice. You got this at the convention?
So at the convention, it's like going to any kind of convention that's got booths set up, and these vendors are putting up. They have free stuff that you can grab, probably to get traffic, right?
Yeah.
Well, NAMB, North American Mission Board, they give the good stuff. So you got these water bottles. This is super nice right here. I've used this several times.
Send relief.
This is
see what we
from
got
this
in
is
here.
from NAMB.
What do we got in here, George?
It's a little toolkit, traveling.
Oh, I was
little
going to say,
traveling
it looks
toolkit.
like it might be like a little Bible in here.
Nope.
And then I open it up, and it's a traveling.
No, it's a nice little traveling
There you go.
toolkit.
Got a couple sockets, screwdriver, some.
Got some Allen wrenches in
some
there.
Allen
Got
wrenches.
a
You got a level?
measuring tape. Yeah, I got a
There's
level.
a little level here in case you want to do some carpentry on the road.
Yeah, a nice screwdriver.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is all given free. All given free. Julia went online to look up how much these cost from just the vendor. $13.64.
Dang.
$13.64. Now, I'm sure that NAMB got a discount for
Water bottles.
bulk, but they also put
Their logo on
the
it.
logo on there, so that's got to cost some money, right? This actually was surprising. This actually costs quite a bit more than this.
That's weird.
This is $8.86.
Well, that was probably made by some children in China.
Oh, it's made in China. There's a
yeah,
thing
there
in
you go.
there that says made in China.
Made by slave labor.
Yeah, probably. It's probably the Uyghurs. But they've also got to put the thing on there. But NAMB,
Hey, there's some irony there for you. Send relief.
right,
Made by
right. People in China.
poor people in China.
Right. But NAMB also gave away bags, pens, and fidget spinners. So
Fidget spinners are kind of 3 years ago.
well, I'm not defending what they're giving out. I'm just saying that we need to be a little bit honest about the fact that when you're giving to the cooperative program and it goes to NAMB and you think it's going for
Church planting.
it's going for church planting.
Big time
It's
waste.
helping me, screw in something at my house with the screwdriver.
Yeah. Well, everyone's a
So
missionary.
this is
Everyone's a missionary.
Right.
George. Isn't that what everybody says
This-
nowadays?
This is some little old lady's offering.
Preacher's got to be hydrated.
Right. That's you could work for the SBCJ with all the way that you spend stuff.
So tell the people about the experience at a church you know of. I'll keep it vague.
Yeah.
And then the church is debating, do we continue to give to the SBC? And then someone speaks up.
Yeah, I mean,
This is what they're banking on.
right. Well, I don't think that they would mind
Okay.
me saying this is my. I don't think they would mind at all.
Right.
This is my in-laws' church. They're currently debating giving to the cooperative program because my in-laws they're right in line with us. They see the corruption, they see the waste, they see the leadership. They're teaching things and supporting things that are just anti-biblical. I mean, the critical race theory and all the social justice stuff, the things that leadership have said, that is just antithetical to the gospel, and they want to see change.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're arguing that their church needs to suspend giving to the cooperative program, and they're meeting some resistance. But the saddest comment that they told me was after, and my father-in-law, he is very detailed. He's like you, Jay. He's very much like you. Very detailed, very like, here's everything that's going on. And after he gives this big like PowerPoint presentation, this old lady at the church, this little old lady says, well, I just think we need to keep giving to the cooperative program.
Yeah.
It's so ingrained in us that is SBC above everything.
Yeah.
And, well, it's, they say that it's going for missions, and so we just trust them.
Right.
We do not need to be that naive.
Mm-hmm.
We need to communicate clearly to our churches that there is a lot of things wrong with the SBC right now. And in my opinion, it's not worth giving to.
Right. We suspended giving in our church.
We suspended giving. I really don't think that it's worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be a fight. And the people that want to stay in, they have to say we're willing to fight.
Well, there's a ton of money involved now, and people's jobs, tons of jobs.
Yeah,
I mean, it's too top heavy. That's one problem. There are too many jobs.
I liken it to the government, to the federal government. Trump came in with his promise to drain the swamp,
right?
And what did he discover?
It's all the swamp.
It's so bad that it would take longer than even an eight-year presidency to do any effective thing. It's the same with the SBC.
Yeah.
The leadership is so entrenched. The buddy system is so strong. The protecting the institutions are. I mean, it's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to stay, you have to be willing to fight.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to say, well, let's stay in the SBC, but I'm not going to go to the convention and try to vote things differently. Like, if you want to stay, you've got to fight.
Well, you could.
And in my opinion, I just don't think it's worth fighting for.
You could try to fight, but I mean, people are going to looks like they'll slander you and
right.
say all kinds of evil things about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may even call and get you fired, which there's a lawsuit going on right now between a state employee of a state association and NAMB. We're not supposed to sue each other, but this is the person's last,
right.
I guess this is his last ditch effort to salvage his own reputation, because wherever he goes, they would call and like sabotage his employment. Pretty bad stuff.
And all of these institutions, the executive committee, which is just a bunch of volunteers, the president, the seminaries, the ERLC, NAMB, IMB, all of these things are supposed to be servants of the church, of the churches, the local church. So it's not supposed to be these guys are in charge and we just need to follow their lead. No, it's the opposite. The local churches are supposed to be the top of the SBC authority.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, as it's been bloated and there's money involved and there's power and there's book deals and all of this stuff, it's just flipped. And now the local churches really don't have any say.
Right.
It's all just trust the leadership, just do what they say. They've got, they gospel above all. And I just don't think that it's worth fighting for. I think it's I think it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've been SBC my entire life. I'm 40, and I've been SBC since the first time I took a breath.
George.
And I just don't think it's worth fighting for.
Yeah. You're a man. You're 40.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
People might not
People
understand.
don't even know what
They don't
that
know
is.
that
Didn't that happen like
They're going to have to Google it now.
15 years ago?
If you're listening and you want some fun times and some good laughs, Google "I'm a man, I'm 40," or check it out on YouTube. It'll be fun. You'll get a good kick out of it. Well, George, I think we're a little long now to start this next segment because we wanted to have just like a rational, non-emotional conversation about vaccine mandates, right? I don't think we have time to do that because we're at 45 minutes. So I think we'll just shut this podcast down, and maybe next week we'll just have a rational. Maybe we can find ourselves a microbiologist to bring on here or something. Do you think we could?
I have no idea.
That would be kind of. I think that would be kind of interesting, wouldn't you? It would. What would be cool is if we could have a pro-vax, an anti-vax, a microbiologist on here. How will we get everybody around this table? Because the one thing I'm not happy about is the way Christians dialogue about this. It's pretty sad, honestly.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad that the way that people aren't able to have a conversation about things. So,
Well, and also I think the way that we're not thinking about things from a biblical worldview.
yeah.
And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but we'll just have to save that for next time, I guess.
Yeah, let's save it.
Okay, so that's a little teaser. Little teaser for next free for all.
Somebody knows a
People
microbiologist.
are going to be mad if we don't do it next week, Jay.
I need a microbiologist. Where can I find one? I doubt anybody will drive down here from OU, but I could. There obviously we could find one there.
Yeah.
I don't know about. You think they got any at Cameron? I don't.
Oh, I have
I
no
mean
idea.
like a real microbiologist.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not like well, maybe there are some real ones over there. Someone who could talk. Maybe we should just find us like a virologist. Let's go big.
Do you have Fauci on speed dial?
I'm not looking for a politician, George. I'm looking for a virologist, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want somebody who spends their life like in one of those bubble suits, like working on stuff, and they get punctured and they take out the tape and smack it on there so that they don't die.
Did you see? I know
what
that
I'm looking for.
we've still got a little bit of time. We can fill in a little bit of time. Did you see the article that there's evidence that they were actively infecting wild bats with different viruses?
Oh yeah. I've been reading on this stuff.
Have you been up on that for months?
For a year.
For a year now?
I think if you were to go back and listen to the podcast, I first brought this up over a year ago.
Okay.
That they were researching, they were doing this type of research on these bats. Of course, back then people would say you're a conspiracy theorist for even proposing such nonsense.
Right.
But then it's come out, that they were doing that type of research there.
Mm.
Have you seen Jon Stewart talk about it? We got to play that clip, man.
Okay.
Jon Stewart,
where he's talking, where he's on with
Colbert.
Yeah. And Colbert's trying to shut him down.
Yeah, he's
making light of it.
He's like, let's see, coronavirus breaks out right next to the facility where they experiment on coronaviruses.
Right.
And it's real funny. But he just shows how obvious it is. This is one of two places on the earth where they do these experiments.
Right.
That we know of. Right? Well, it's about time to shut it down. Who wants to shut it down?
That's probably a good place to shut it down before it gets too out of hand.
You shut it down. I started it.
You want me to shut it down?
Okay,
I started it. What are you talking about? I started it.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Free for all Friday?
You're right. We need a third. We need Larry to jump in and tell and set you straight.
I'll do it.
All right.
Here we go.
Okay.
I'll hit the button, and that'll cue us.
All right.
Thanks for listening today or watching Conformed to Christ podcast, Free for All Friday. Hopefully it's been beneficial and maybe even a little entertaining for you on your drive.
Hopefully it hasn't been too depressing.
Hopefully you're not watching YouTube while you're driving, but if you are, at least maybe it's where the map is on the front of your dash. Could be a little safe. Don't watch and drive. But if this is beneficial to you, please like, subscribe, and share. You guys can write a review too. That would be awesome. That would be great. That would be helpful. It's our desire and our hope that everything we do helps you to become more and more conformed to Christ. See you next time.